Hi everyone. In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can make animations using Node Machine's batch render. It is kind of dense, but it's super fun. And trust me, I'll walk you through the whole process so you can see how it's actually done. First up, we want to get our footage inside Photoshop. And we can do it by clicking on File, Import, and Video Frames to Layers. Now, for my case, I have an MP4 file which I'll be working with, and for your information, is 90 frames. Super important that you realize the more frames that the video has, it is going to take more time. That also applies to resolution, so keep that in mind. For now, I'll just click on OK, and this is going to give me all the frames. But I'm not getting the full information, full context about this. So we want to also open the timeline. We can do so by clicking on Window, Timeline, and we can get this panel. And what I like to do is just clipping it to the bottom here. That way, everything looks good. Now, great, but we don't see anything. So let's open Node Machine and create a filter setup. So in my case, I have this done here, and it's like a gridded pattern, super nice with glow. You can play around. This is going to be the base effect that is going to get applied to all the frames. So make sure you get a nice preview, a nice effect going for you to then render. Play around with it until you get something that is super good looking. So you can also play around with maps, and we will talk about this in a later video because that is even better. But for the time being, I just wanted to give you guys like a proper, easy introduction so you guys can get going with animations just straight on. Okay, let's go into the batch render panel. First one is going to be delete source, and you might have guessed it, it deletes the base frame. So you would only get as an output the Node Machine generation. Now for the sliders, you have drift, which is an animated turbulence. If the value is super slow, it is going to move kind of slow. If the value is higher, then it will be more extreme. Then you also get this small circle here, same as threshold, but in this case, what it does is loops the effect. So in the beginning and at the end, it is going to get a intensity curve set to 0. So it's going to start with 0, then jump to the value that you have selected, and at the end it is going to drop down back to 0. That way it loops. Okay. Then we have scale, and this will determine the scale of the drift. So smaller values are going to feel like kind of flies or ants, and the bigger values will feel like waves. On the right side, we have persistence and tolerance. Persistence will keep the connections of the dots even through the animation, and depending on the value that you have selected, it is going to keep it more or less. I also have some videos on the screen for you guys to see what persistence does. That way you can see it better. Now, tolerance, it is at what point those connections break. By default, it's at 50%, which is like a good balance. But if you want to keep all the connections almost at every time and keep the mess, you can throw it to 100. Or if for another reason you want to have minimal connections be kept, you can always lower it down. Now, you can play around with the settings. I'll just go full extreme with persistence because I really like it, and keep the drift to 0 because I don't really think this is going to work, since the logo you will see here is just rotating. I'll see you when this is done, but for now, let's just go and render. And the rendering is done. Now, if you want to check your animation, you can do so by clicking on play here, and you will see your animation. Super cool. Now, for you to export this video, what you would do is click on this small icon here to convert it to a video timeline, and you can see all the layers here. Now, from this point, you can click on export, and this will open a dialog where you can change the settings and adjust to your liking. You can also go ahead and merge all the layers into one by selecting all of them, right-clicking, and convert to a smart object. Once you do this, you can also play around, add some filters on top of it. You can add some thresholds. You can even change the color of it with a hue and saturation. So you can edit all in the timeline. Super fun. One extra thing that I like to do is duplicate this smart object that we have, and we can add filters on top of it. So I'll just create a blur, add something like this, and change the blending mode to linear dodge. and that is going to give us even more glow that we then can export super easily. Now for the next tutorial, I'll go in depth in the use of maps and how they can be used on the batch render. Thank you so much for sticking out, and don't forget to get Node Machine.